All right, so this is part 2. Let me put this up a little bit. Now, this episode, I wanted to listen, I'm coming in strong, okay? So, this episode is about the new age wave, okay? That I was for a very small time a part of. I was born into a Christian home. Both of my parents are Christian. I went to Sunday school. I went to church on Sundays. We were always there. And we went to like youth events. We would even travel, like go to different states and stuff, travel across the border, do all of like these youth stuff. And honestly, when I was younger, it was a lot of fun. As I got older, I did become disconnected. I did turn away from God. And I think this is something that it's kind of like in the church, it's like hush, hush, like you don't really want to talk about it. But it happens to everyone, which is what I've come to realize. So this is my testimony. For a brief period, I was getting into like astrology and like learning about different, like, I want to say it's like forbidden information. And as I was getting into it, something always felt off. I can't explain it. Like, I felt like I was just kind of putting a band-aid on real life issues that I was having. And I was like, I'm okay. I'm happy. Everything's fine. And I've always been like a humorous person. So like laughing things off were always like my go-to. Like overall, I made a decision that I wanted to be happy, almost in a way where it's like whatever that looks like. So I started to realize that I started to come in contact with a lot of people who were in like new age spirituality and like shrooms and like all this stuff. And I was like, wow, like they are really standing by this. Like it's working for them. Like maybe this, and then I kind of went down the rabbit hole of like, I believed that Christianity was something that was forced on people in the diaspora. And it's like, we didn't have a choice. We just became Christian. And I kind of put my Bible away for a while. Like I put my Bible away. I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to explore this because, at the time I felt like, God like maybe forgot about me. And like that couldn't be further from the truth. It was just me and my own ego and like my own just pain. That was really what opened the door, was like pain. The thing that I've realized is that when you have trauma, it opens the space for very dangerous spiritual energy. Now, one of the things that really, since I've gone like full-fledged back to Christianity, the camera was charged right before I started. And it just randomly died. So I have it charging. We're going to try this again because I already know what's going on. So just to continue from where I was finishing off, I wanted to go over some of the things that kind of attracted me to like the new age spirituality, even to begin with. All right. So one of the things that I found that was the most appealing was like the people that I was meeting in the new age spirituality were so happy. Like they were so happy. It was kind of like, okay, how did they get so happy? Like that's what I've always wanted. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so, depressed. I'm so worried about everything. Like I'm so stressed all the time. Like this person has no worries, right? So that was one of the things that I started to see with people who were in the new age, like spirituality, whatever they were doing. And it was something that was very attractive to me. And even just some of the things that people would say, like it would sound like they got their results like so quickly. Like, oh yes, like I just manifest and I do this. And like, it always comes true. Like the universe is working in my favor. Like that's the kind of stuff I was like, wow, like I want the universe to work in my favor. So that's what I was seeing. Like there was just a desire, like once you turn from God, like anything can happen to you, and it's important to turn back so that you have enough time to save yourself. What was happening to me at that moment, like it was straight up pride, straight up ego. Like I was like, okay, you know what, like God has his favorites, like that's just what it is, and maybe like I don't know where I fall on the spectrum. And it was just out of pain, just out of pain, out of pain, out of pain. And I was like, you know what, like I'm not waiting on God anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. Rah, rah, rah. Like that's where I was. And I'm just so grateful that I'm back to myself. But those were the main reasons. And like people would talk to me about like, oh, you know, what's your sign? And, you know, oh, when are you born? What's your birthday? And you tell them, and they'll like read you like top to bottom. And I'm like, wow, words. Like, how did you know that about me? You don't even know me. Now I know that they were communicating with spirits, but we'll get into that. Another one of the most common questions I get asked is like, what specific beliefs or practices did you engage with in the New Age spirituality? So I was into yoga. That went left because I went in one day, and long story short, I had a spiritual experience in that room, and I was like, I'm out. And I had heard about spiritual experiences that people have, but mine wasn't happy. I felt like something was trying to enter my body. Upon doing research of what was happening to me in that room, I realized that there are certain things that you do in yoga where it's like you want to empty the mind, and you want to clear this, and you want to empty this. But what you're doing is when you're clearing, you're opening yourself up to become a vessel for something to take over you. That's the information that I found that resonated with me. And I was like, yoga's out. One of the things that I was also getting into was astrology. I remember I bought this astrology book, and it was like, I would tell people, I'd be like, oh, like, what's your birthday? Can I look at your chart? Blah, blah, blah. And it would be spot on. So in my mind, I truly believed that it was a way to learn people like beyond what they tell you, because it's like people can only tell you, you know, whatever about them, and you just take it at face value. And I was like, yo, I want to know more about them. Like I want to know like the nitty gritty. I want to know everything. But in reality, now I realize it's not my place. People are like that because they don't want to share everything. And I think that it's an invasion when you're kind of like looking into someone, either with permission, without permission, whatever is going on. What else? I was a very heavy weed smoker. Not smoker, but I was never a person to really smoke. But I would like make cookies. I would like have like a lot of. Now, honestly, it took a conversation with my mom to like realize where she was saying, you have the weed, you feel amazing, and you still have to come back down to your life. What's the point? What changed? So as of this year, it's now July. I haven't had weed this entire year. Don't need it. I haven't had alcohol since 2019. Don't need it. Those were like the main things. And I would say like learning about like ancestry, like once I went down the rabbit hole of like, oh, this was robbed from you during slavery, like Christianity is of the devil, and like that's kind of, I was kind of on that path where I was like, okay, well then what was taken from me, you know, what spirituality was taken from me, what was taken from me, I want to learn about it. So I started to like, you know, ask my parents about like my ancestry, and a lot of things like, okay, like maybe I'm like this person. A lot of them started to come to me in dreams. A lot of them started to come to me in like waking life. Like I was starting to see stuff. So, and I was scaring myself. If we're being honest, I was scaring myself. So that's like as far as I went with it. But I was starting to meet people who had gone like further. I even have had women in my chair tell me like, yeah, like my boyfriend's acting up. Like I lit this candle and I pulled this card and I fed him this, and now he's crazy for me. And that was something that I met like when I met a lot of people in the new age, that's something that I saw very frequently. I saw just pushing it to another limit, and like there's a lot of people taking advantage of other people's free will, and that's a dangerous game that I was not willing to play. So a lot of the stuff was cut out. Now, one of the other questions that I got a lot when I started to open up about this was if there was any challenges or conflicts that I faced during the transition back to Christianity. To be honest with you, when you have a breakdown, I had one, and I started to pray and I said, God, I need you to show me. Like, I cleared this room. Like, the prayer was almost something like, God, if you can hear me, I need only you and you to answer this prayer. You need to make it so, please, please, please make it so unbelievably, undeniably clear what you want me to do. And immediately I heard surrender. I heard surrender. I can't even explain the voice. It was like, it was my voice, but it was in my head, but I knew that it wasn't my thought. Like it was, I just heard the word surrender, and that word was ringing in my ears. Couldn't get it out of my head. And I'm getting chills right now. I had an exam that I was so stressed for. I ended up dropping this class, so the entire thing was just crazy. But I had an exam that I was so scared for. On my way to the exam, usually I take the bus to my school because it's close and that's more cost effective. Finding parking is ridiculous. So around exam season, I was like, okay, you know what? It's at a different building. I didn't know where the building was. I had no sleep. So I said, you know what? I'm going to drive to school. I drove to school. I drove to school on a route that I never, ever take. Okay. Drove to school, and I'm going to find the picture, but it said, Jesus can give you a new life. And it was a legitimate sign. I feel like God has a sense of humor because that is what I asked for. It was so undeniably clear that this is what he wants me to do. So I kept on hearing the word surrender. Everything that I was doing, like I had crystals in my room. That's another thing that I had a lot of. I had a lot of crystals, a lot of like bracelets, a lot of pendants, a lot of that stuff. I had a lot of crystals, and I would like meditate with them. And like, to be honest, it's weird because it's like things would get better for like 2 weeks and like amazing. Like I'd be with a crystal and be manifesting money, and money would come, and I'm like, yeah, this is working. But it's a counterfeit. It's going to work, but it is short-lived. And I don't remember I think it was at another podcast where the woman was saying like the enemy does not care that you don't worship the actual enemy as long as you're not worshiping God. And that is exactly what was happening with those crystals. So all that aside, I saw a clear, very undeniable sign, and walking into my exam, I just felt this feeling. I can't explain it. Like I couldn't shake it. And I was like, okay, let me pray on this again. And it was literally like surrender. That's the only word that I could hear. So on Christmas Eve, I went on Google and I searched fire pits near me. I burned all the New Age books I had. I burned all the crystals I had. I burned everything. The sage I had Palo Santo. I burned everything to the ground, to the crisp. I almost bought goggles to put on because when I was lighting this stuff up, things were just flying everywhere. And even the burning process of everything was just ridiculous. I had everything in a big box. I parked downtown. I'm walking to the fire pit. It is so unbelievably heavy that I couldn't carry it. I honestly could not carry it. I was carrying it and then I had to stop. And then I was carrying it and then I had to stop. And I was like, I don't remember this box being this heavy. And then on the way up to the fire pit, the box broke. So I'm like, am I supposed to do this? Is the box breaking like a sign from the universe that keep these things and hold them close to you, never get rid of them? Or is something trying to prevent me from burning these things? And I sat down on like this big rock and I'm looking at the box, and all I could think was, what am I doing? Let me just go home. And as soon as I had that thought in my head, a dog walks up to me. So I'm looking at the dog. The dog's looking at me. I was like, I don't even know what to do right now if it just bites me. And this guy, he could see that I was in distress. And he said, is everything all right? And I was just like, I'm trying to find the fire pit. I don't know where it is. And he's like, oh, it's right over there. He's like, it's up that hill over there, which thankfully I was already on the way, but it was just so heavy. Everything was so heavy. The crystals, everything was so, so, so heavy. And he's like, well, I can take them up for you. And I was like, thank you. Just the stress of it all. And then we started to talk, and he's like, are you from around here? And I was like, oh, no, not really. And he's like, oh, this is a heavy box. Like, and I was like, yeah, please don't open it. That's all I could think. And then he brought it up for me, and he's like, my name's David. What's your name? And I was like, Crystal. And he's like, listen, Crystal, whatever you're going through, I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good long weekend. Like, it was Christmas time. He's like, I hope you have a good holiday. And I was like, thank you, David. I was so even hot. Like, it was so cold outside and I was so hot. As I was burning all of like the stuff that I had, another guy walks up to me and he's like, what are you doing? In the most creepy like energy. He was not like David. He had the most like, just, I might even have caught it on camera because I was recording a lot of it. Comes up to me and he's like, looks me dead in my face and goes, those aren't gonna burn. So I look at him and I was like, listen, I rented this out. I'm paying for this right now. I need you to leave. I don't know. So I burned everything. I told myself that I was walking into the new year with none of that stuff. I said, you know what? I'm going to try 100% God, and I'm going to put my pain aside. I'm going to put what I thought was, having like God's back turned on me, which literally wasn't. It's hard to even say because that was not the case. Looking back at that period in my life, I see it as something totally different now. So I burned everything. One of the other questions I get a lot was, did like my relationships with people who are still in the new age really change? Yes and no, because when I had my experience and I was like, oh my gosh, like God is calling me, like I can't believe like he still wants me. I wanted to share it with everyone. And I think I kind of like spooked them because they were kind of like, oh, like religion, like we don't do religion. Like this is crazy. Like what's going on with Crystal? Like, is she okay? So to be honest, I think a lot of them think I'm crazy, but I'm okay with that because I have peace that I've literally never had before. And every time that I would meet someone in the new age, the one thing that everyone had in common was like this searching for something. And along with pain, like deeply rooted pain, everyone had pain, whether it was physical pain, whether it was mental pain, whether a lot of it was emotional pain. A lot of people in emotional pain. That I feel like is one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people get into it. What aspects of Christianity did you find most compelling or comforting? Oh, I feel like, when you do laundry and you're washing your like bed sheet comforter, and you take it out and it's so just like buzzingly hot, like it's fuzzy, and you put it on yourself, I felt like a gigantic blanket was put over me when I came back to Christianity. The first time going to church after turning like back to Christianity, I was bawling my eyes out. I had never really cried like that in church. I felt like something was leaving me. Like I felt like a lot of the pain was leaving me. I felt like a lot of my past was leaving me. I felt like a lot of the forgiving that I had to do for people, which to be honest, I'm still working on sometimes, was leaving me. There were so many things that were leaving me, and I started to Google it, like what's going on. And honestly, I feel like I got my deliverance. Yeah, it's just been such a ride. Oh God. A lot of people were asking like how I just jumped right back in. I think that when you have family members and friends who almost have, I guess to my knowledge, never, I don't want to say never left Christianity, but have had like a strong faith, I think that that makes it much easier. I think that being around people who are Christians and who are doing God's work and who are tearing down spiritual warfare, I think it's so essential. It's essential that you connect with those people. I think fellowship is something that I'm still kind of working on, because it's important to be around people, but I also really do like my space. I find a lot of peace and comfort in my space. And I also feel like some people have church hurt, and I think that the church needs to just kind of understand that, right? People have church hurt, and I was a person who had church hurt, so going back to church was a little bit difficult. But I have started to like read my Bible more. I've started to really just educate myself on like Christianity is following Jesus. So what does that really mean? What kind of person do I really need to be, right? Like, I don't want to be the girl at the women's brunch who, is gossiping with other people. Like that's just, to me, it's just small minded, and that's not the kind of lifestyle that I want to live. So there's a lot of stuff like that, a lot of like, conversations that I would used to have with people have changed, and like I'm bringing in the Jesus freak. Yes, that's me, and honestly, I'm proud of it. So yeah, I think just balancing going like to church and fellowship and also doing my work. Like it's one thing to go to church. Like you can go to church every Sunday and come home and be like have the most tyrannical behavior. No, I feel like I used to just go to church and just kind of like, oh, that motivation. Yeah. And then it would be done. Like it'd be done in like maybe I would carry it for like a week. So I'm actually doing the work at home as well. Like I was so loyal to like saging every week and doing all of these things every week and manifestation every week. And it's like I was so loyal to that. Now I'm loyal to God. So I know that I'm capable. I was able to create like, I don't want to say a schedule, but I had like a routine that I would do. And it's like now my routine is with God. I would say that's how it's changed the most. What advice would you give? This is a really good one. What advice would I give to someone who is in New Age and wants to come out? I think that you need to understand that when God is calling you, you either answer the call and do his will, or whatever your other options are. That's it. Because if the enemy gets a hold of you, there's no telling what can happen to you. You could be in serious danger. And I think I was in serious spiritual danger. And I know now that I'm safe because I can't even tell you, like, the thing is, once you jump back into Christianity, that whole new age movement, it's going to be upset with you. I don't think I've ever been this spiritually attacked in my life. In my life, I used to have like the evil eye symbol in my bio on Instagram. I didn't even need it. It didn't work. It didn't work. I just noticed that everything in the new age, it doesn't work. It's fake. It's a counterfeit. The people who are in it are not really happy. One thing that I'm going to say a portion of this story. There was someone that I met that was trying to almost like coach me. It was like I would say maybe spiritual mentor. And someone had done something very like, to me, it was kind of like unimportant. Like I was like, okay, it would have been the equivalent for me if someone had like canceled an appointment within 24 hours. That's not something that I would like get overly mad about. I would just be professional and be like, listen, this is like, this, you're not going to get your deposit back. Like whatever I have in motion with that person, the relationship, like I would take all of those things into consideration. But that's not something that I would like get crazy for. It just wouldn't happen. And I witnessed this person who I had trusted, who I had taken life advice from, literally say, oh, that person doesn't know who they're messing with. Oh, I must send something for them. What do you mean? What do you mean? Send what? Send what? So one thing that I realized is that it will change you. And I literally saw this person like eyes go cold. Like, oh, this person doesn't know who they're messing with. And I was like, whoa, it's not even that serious. And it really scared me. And I think one day they had called me under the influence and just saying crazy stuff. So I would say that if God is calling you, answer his call, because there is a new life waiting for you. There is a new life waiting for you. And if you follow him, like, even I always hear people say like, oh, but what if religion and stuff like that isn't true? And I'm like, okay, Jesus was described to be as the perfect man, right? The perfect man, good heart, generous, healing people of sickness, disease, emotional health, everything. Why would I not want to follow somebody like that? Even if there is nothing, or oh, I want to play devil's advocate. Why would you ever advocate for the devil? Why would you be an advocate for the devil? So that's my answer, honestly. Your heart will never lead you astray. That's your connection. So that would be my advice. Definitely answer that call. If you liked this episode, I just wanted to thank you for being here and thank you for engaging. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them under this post. You can feel free to follow me using all of my @ in the description. And if you like more of this content, go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.